Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2008. It's a Ford. It's an F350. The complaint today is that the customer, when they drive the vehicle, they hear a noise coming from the right front wheel. Even without applying the brake, they hear this noise, like a squealing or some type of noise coming from the front. I did take the wheels off it to take a look and see what was going on. I'm going to bring you up front. I'm going to show you what it is. Basically what it is, the caliper is staying applied. When the caliper stays applied, it builds up a tremendous amount of heat and it'll give you that squealing type noise. This truck, we're not going to be able to lift up on the lift because, as you can see, it has this diamond bed on the back of it, and my lift is not able to lift this up. So we are going to be working on the floor, which makes it a little bit of a pain in the rear end to do. Let me bring you up front. I'm going to show you how to figure out exactly what the problem is so that we replace the correct part the first time. We don't know if it's the caliper that's bad, if it's the slide pins that are no good, or if it's even the brake hose. The brake hose can go bad. If the brake hose goes bad, it keeps the brake fluid in the caliper, therefore causing the brakes to stay applied at all times. I'm going to show you how to check that so you can rule out the brake hose, and we can decide if it's a caliper or if it's the sliders. So let's go up front and we'll continue with our diagnosis and repair. Okay, now this is the driver's side, obviously, and as you can see, it spins a little bit of binding, but is normal. It spins nice and freely. Now we'll go around the other side. And the problem with the other side, well, first off, you can see it just by looking at it that there's a heat issue with this here. You can see by the discoloration and these marks on here. As you can see, it's very, very stiff, very tough to turn anything. You can see it's binding. Now, I can look in here and I can see that the brake pads themselves are fairly thick, so the pads are okay. Now, what we need to find out what the problem is, we need to first decide if the slide pins are any good, if they're frozen possibly, or maybe the caliper itself, the piston, is just stiff and they're not returning. But a common problem with these trucks, especially being an off-road vehicle, this road here is a railroad vehicle, so it's off-road all the time. What happens is rust builds up inside here, and when rust builds up inside here, it actually reduces the inside diameter of the brake hose. So under pressure, when you have the power booster working, it pumps the fluid in, and then when you take your foot off the brake pedal, the fluid is supposed to travel back through here so that it releases the rotor from the caliper. Now, the way you can check it very simply is you just come in here with a wrench or a socket. You come down to the bleeder valve right here. You open the bleeder valve. When you open the bleeder valve, this should turn nice and easy, which it does not. So, what that tells me, you can see it, we're dripping brake fluid down here. So what that tells me is that the brake hose is not the issue. The hose is okay, because even if this hose was collapsed, by opening up the bleeder valve, you reduce the pressure, and therefore this rotor would turn. So that's not the case. So we know the hose is okay. Everything with the master cylinder is okay. The next thing we need to check is to make sure that the pistons push back in on the caliper, and that will tell us if the caliper is good or if it's the mounting bracket. So let me grab a tool and we're going to push that back in and we're going to see which one it is. Okay, now what we're going to do is we get in here with the screwdriver down in between the brake pad and pry the brake pad back into the bore just to see if the piston goes back in. You just hold slight pressure on it, let it go in nice and slow. And those pistons are not pushing back in. Moved a little bit, but it stopped. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to take this caliper off. We're going to unbolt the caliper right here, and then down here. We're going to take these two off, and we're going to swing the caliper up and out of the way, and then we're going to confirm that these pistons are actually frozen. Let's pull this apart, and we'll see what it looks like. This is probably going to be a 15 millimeter or whatever, so let me grab some wrenches, and let's take that caliper off. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that caliper off, and then we're going to see what's going on with that. Take the caliper and pry it off, and we'll see what's going on. Sorry, I'm going to block the view for a second there. Okay. Let's take these pads out of here. They are fairly thick. Okay, now I'm not sure exactly why it froze up, but these slide pins here slide nice and freely. I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to show you what it looks like here. Okay, we're just going to leave our calipers hanging on the side here for now, and we just want to make sure that the rotor turns freely. And as you can see, the rotor turns nice and freely, so we know there's nothing going on inside here, that the problem is definitely going to be in the caliper itself. So, all right, we are going to change the caliper. We're going to talk to the customer and see if they want to do the brake job the right way, which would be changing the brake pads and the rotor. I got a feeling they're not going to want to do that, but we'll see what they say. And as you can see, the brake pads themselves are very thick, so all right, we'll see what the customer wants to do, and then we'll come right back and we'll wrap this job up. Okay, so we have our caliper supported here, so that's hanging up and out of the way for now. And you know, normally what I do is, and everybody knows this too, is that normally I'll get in here with a breaker bar, and I'll show you how to take these out with a breaker bar. But it's the end of the day, I'm tired. I'm just going to use a gun to shoot it out and save myself a little work. So if you don't have an air gun, of course, you can use a regular ratchet. Alright, and this we're going to get rid of. And we're going to put our new caliper back on. You want to make sure that your caliper's on the correct side. As you can see, your bleeder valve has always got to be up on the top. You can't cross those up, because otherwise you'll never get the air out of it. Alright, so we're just going to hang this here for now. And I'm going to take that caliper back off. take these caliper bolts out. We'll just bring this off to the side for now. And then we're going to tighten up these bolts here that hold the mounting bracket down. Sorry about that. I know I normally always do it by hand, but it's a long day today. So, alright, so now we have the caliper mounting bracket put back on the way it's supposed to be. We're going to replace the caliper now with the new one. But before we do anything more, we're going to put our brake pads and our clips on it. I'll show you that. Even though I'm going to be reusing the brake pads, we're not going to reuse these clips on the end here. We're going to switch them over. The caliper comes with new ones, so we're just going to switch them over. Make sure that when you take these clips off, you put the correct one back on. See how this goes? It's like a mirror image. Okay, let's point this out to you. See the top of this clip? And you see this clip? They all look the same this way. It's the top that really counts. Right here. Like that. See this piece? It's got to line up with that piece right there. As you see how this one? It's going to be the opposite. You see? You just take this off. We'll reinstall the new one on like that. Same thing here, we're going to take this one off. And we're going to reinstall the new one. Like this. Make sure it's down all the way. And then this one is going to fit into this caliper bracket back here. You can see how it goes in and it falls right back out. But we're not going to do that yet. But that's how it goes. Anywhere that the brake pad is going to touch, you lubricate it so that it slides nice and easy. And we're just going to put that pad back in here for now. That's the way it's supposed to be. We're just going to leave that for now. This pad here, we're going to switch over the clips on that too. Same thing here. Put our new clip. Put the new clip back on like this. And now this one is ready to go back into. So I put a little bit of the grease here. And here, this is the brake silicone. The synthetic brake grease. Right, everywhere that touches. And then we'll put this back in here. And we'll push it in. And you see how it pulls right back out just the way it's supposed to. And we're going to take our caliper and put our caliper in. Push our brake pads together. And we'll screw our bolts up on the top here and down on the bottom. tighten the caliper up. Same thing on the bottom. Nice and tight. And we can just take this little piece here that was in from the factory. We'll take that out. And then we're going to remove our brake line from the old caliper and we'll put it into the new one. Now, before you do anything though, we do have to pinch off the brake line so that the fluid doesn't drip all over the place. So what you do is just put a pair of vice grips on here very lightly, not too tight because you don't want to damage the brake hose itself. Clip it on there. Now you might get a little bit of fluid leaking out, but it won't be that bad. Alright, we'll just break this loose. Might get a little bit of fluid dripping out of here, so we're going to be careful with that. We do have our bucket down on the bottom to catch any brake fluid that comes out. Down here. Okay, on brake hoses, whenever you change a hose, you always have to use new O-rings on it. I'm sorry, not O-rings, new copper washers. So you have to take the old ones off. That was if it fell in the bucket. Put your new one on here like this. And then you're going to put your line through here. Put your copper washer on the back of it, and then we're going to install the line back into the caliper by hand. You're not going to use a wrench on it yet. You got to screw it in by hand. Okay, once you have it screwed in by hand, then you can tighten it up with your ratchet. Only when you have it caught by hand, because you don't want to take a chance on cross-threading it. Okay, you don't want to tighten it too tight and snap it off, because I've seen it happen quite a few times, including to myself. And that's it. Alright, so now this side is totally done. We're going to go to the other side, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And then we're going to come back and we're going to bleed our brakes out over here. Now, what I normally do when I bleed the brakes, now obviously you saw me take the pliers off here. Crack this open here a little bit, and while now I'm working on the other side, I'm going to let this drain out, and all the air that's in there is going to work its way up and out that bleeder valve, and it'll be a lot less bleeding for me and my assistant when we do bleed the brakes out. Alright, so we're going to let this drip out a little bit here, get all the air out of it, and then we're going to do the opposite side, the exact same thing. Alright, so let me just recap what I did to it again. Okay, we took the bolts, we tightened them up tight here, and the one on the bottom. We also made sure that this bolt here is tight, the one that mounts the caliper to the mounting bracket. We put our new hardware on the older brake pads, and we know that it's sliding just the way it's supposed to. You can see that pulls it away from the caliper. And that's it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to bleed it out and do the opposite side, and we'll wrap the job up and get it out the door. Alright, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.